Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Are you energized? Ready? Ready to work on some reports? Okay, so my name is Dr. Adrian Hines, and I'm a professor of IT. So I like math, I love math, but I teach IT. Okay, so let's get started. I'm not sure if you're aware, but in about a month, there's going to be a big world event coming up, and that is the FIFA Soccer World Cup. Yay. Yes. Do you know about the World Cup? Yes? No? So you're going to learn. Excellent. Okay. So you will learn about the Soccer World Cup. And so what I'm going to ask you to do, number one, is to go to D2L. And there is a folder in module 3. And you will see here, there is a CSV file. You need to download it, World Cup Finals. So let's go ahead and download this file. And that's going to be our data source. All right. It looks like it was already downloaded. So let me go to the downloads folder. And I'm going to delete this one. Okay. So World Cup Finals. We are going to import that one into Power BI. So first of all, let me make sure, yes, it's clear. So we're going to click on Get Data. And then we can try Excel workbook, but probably it's better text CSV, all right? So Get Data and then text CSV. And we will, well, looks like we already have it. Okay, go to the Downloads folder and click on this World Cup Final CSV file. And then we click on Open. And then we wait, and there you go. So what we see right now is a preview of the data. So far, Power BI has not imported anything. Now, it is highly unlikely, right, unless it was some data specially prepared for Power BI. But in the real world, the data doesn't come 100% clean, or it doesn't come exactly in the format that we need it. So we need to do some transformations to the data. And that will be the case right here. There will be minimal transformations, but there will be some. That process is called data wrangling. Okay, remember that when you go to a job interview, they will ask you, how do you do data wrangling? What is that? Well, so it's the process of retrieving, cleaning, and organizing the data so that it can be processed and used by, for example, data visualization packages such as Power BI, right? So notice that we see here the data. Do you see any problems with this data? Pay attention. There are several that we'll have to deal with. What? The attendance number? Yeah. You can say the attendance number. They come with the, they have periods there, and that may cause problems, and they will cause problems. Clearly, they will cause problems. That's number one. All right. What else do you see? Suppose that I ask you, just from this data, which is, this is all the data that we have. It's not that much, very little. What country has won at least, let's see. Yeah, okay. So, for example, let's talk about Germany. Has Germany won the World Cup based on this data? Yes. Okay, how many times? Okay, we can see. Okay, we can see at least 2 times. Okay, but then has Germany ever been the runner-up? Okay, was it Germany appears always the same, or is it changing? It's changing. Notice that in 1990, it's Germany FR, right? Germany FR. Do you know what Germany FR stands for? Do you know what happened to Germany after World War II? Yes.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering if it was had to do with the left or the right.
Exactly. We had West Germany and then we had East Germany, right? So after World War II, Germany was splitting into 2 parts, right? And then I think in late 90s or later on, it unified, right? So then when Germany was competing in 1986, it was not Germany, it was Germany FR, right? Which was, I believe it was West Germany at that time, right? So then we don't want to do that. We want to see only Germany, right? We don't care if it was Germany, West Germany, East Germany, we just want to see Germany. So we're gonna have to modify and change this Germany FR to just Germany, okay? That's one problem. Then how about the country who organized the World Cup, right? Suppose that we say, well, how about Japan? Has Japan ever organized the World Cup? No? Yes, 2002, right? So 2002, the problem was that it was not just Japan, but it was also Korea. So Korea, Japan, right? So we're gonna have problems there, right? Because Power BI is gonna look for a country called Korea/Japan, and it's not gonna find it, right? So all those problems are gonna become apparent now that we want to do the data rendering. So we could click on load, but that will be a poor choice because we're gonna have all those problems. Then the other thing that we can do, and we will, is to click on transform data. So I would say that 99% of the times you are going to click on transform data. And there will be some problems that we can solve and some other ones we cannot. All right. So I want to mention one thing. What we see here is the Power Query editor. All right, Power Query. And this is actually, believe it or not, scripting language, Power Query. So this editor is going to allow us to perform transformation without having to write Power Query code. Now, if you want to perform more advanced transformation, right, highly advanced, you will need to learn how to use, how to write Power Query code. But that is not that complicated because you can see how the Power Query editor created the code, and then you can just manipulate that. What we see here to the right are the actual steps that we perform. Okay, we are humans, we make mistakes, or we may perform some transformations that we don't want. So we can always go back, right? Backtrack. So we can see our history, and also we can go to a particular step or delete step that we don't want. Then the cool thing about this is that once we perform all the steps, if we get another data source that is similar to the one we had, we can apply the exact same steps, and that's it. We don't have to do it all over and over again. Now, one question that you may have, and I had it when I first started, was, well, can I do all those transformations just in Excel? Can I do them in Excel? The answer is yes, I could. Is that a good idea? No, because Excel doesn't keep track of all the steps that were applied. All right. So then, somebody else looking at that CSV file will have no idea what steps were done in order to clean it. But if you use Power Query editor, then all the steps will be listed. Same thing with you. If you take the same data set 6 months from today, you will have no clue what steps you perform, right? To transform. So whenever you can, always use the Power Query editor. All right. Okay, so notice that there were some steps done already for us. So we can see here at the top the Power Query code right away. So what it did is Power Query realized that the first row were actually the headers, right? Sometimes that will happen, sometimes it won't. In the next example that we're going to see, that's not the case. So we will have to tell Power BI that those are the headers. But in this case, it took it. Then notice some other things. For each column, for example, let's take year, you will see that to the left, we see 1, 2, 3. That means that Power BI recognizes as a number, okay? Very, very important. Then here to the second column, and it appears to be fine. This one, the years appear to be fine. Then the country, we see ABC. That means that it recognizes it as text, right? Or Power BI believes it's text. Okay, then we see winner, we see runners up, and we see third. And we can probably scroll to the right. And we see fourth, goal scores, qualified teams, match players, and then attendance. Do you notice something special about the column in attendance? ABC. That's right. So Power BI did it best it could, but it could not convert it to number, right? Because of all these periods, right, that are there. So that's a problem. So if we want to convert this to a number, we'll have to perform some transformations. So let's start playing with this. Number one, we're going to take this, the second column that it says country, and we're going to rename it. So let's right click on it, and we're going to select rename. Okay. There's also a button for rename, right? But it's usually faster. You just right click, rename, and we're going to call it host country. So then we know, oh, this is the host country. Okay. And then we press enter. Notice that the transformation applied are listed here to the right. It applies step. That's number one. Then here on the winner, we can click on it and then right click, rename, actually not rename, but replace values. And we're going to search for Germany, FR, uppercase FR, and we're going to replace it with Germany. Okay. Make sure you do not misspell because that may cause lots of problems. You can also, there are ways to do advanced search and replace with regular expression, but that's the topic for another workshop. So we're going to click on OK. And now notice that we only see Germany, right? It has to replace Germany FR with just Germany. Now, the third column that it says runners up, we're going to rename it and call it second. That's going to be a lot more useful than call it runners up. So then notice that it's looking a lot better. We see winner, second, third, fourth. Okay, so much better. And notice that in third, we also have the same problem with Germany and FR. So then, and notice the USA was third in the World Cup. Wow, I didn't know that. 1930. So in 1930, the USA was third in the FIFA World Cup, and then it never went beyond that. So let's go to second. Let's right click and now replace values. Germany. You know how the USA did in the last World Cup? The USA didn't qualify, right? Okay. So Germany, okay. And then in the third, we will also do the same thing. We're going to right click, replace values. And Germany FR for Germany. And then click OK. But the USA did very well in the Women's World Cup, world champions. And now we're going to right click on fourth. Notice that Germany is always there, right? Germany, FR to Germany. Very consistent team. All right. So then we have most of it fixed. We have goal score, that's fine, qualified teams, match played, and then this attendance. Let's see if we can fix it. All right, I can't promise we will be able to fix it, but we can try. So how do you think we should fix it? What will be the first? Yes. Right, so we could replace it by comma, but it's better just delete the period. Because we know that we're not going to have decimals in attendance, right? We won't, right? It's highly unlikely unless. Can you have decimals in attendance? No, right? No. 3.5 people attending. You don't say that. No? No. So we're going to right click and then replace values. And we're going to search for a period and replace it with nothing, right? Empty. So we're going to click OK. And now notice that the period is gone. And we are able to do that because we don't have decimals. And then we are going to try to convert it into a number. Let's see if it's possible. So we're going to click on this ABC. And now we'll select whole number. And cross our fingers. And that's it. It worked. Yay. Now, what had happened if there were problems? Okay, then Power BI would have warned us and tell us no. If you try to convert into a number, I can do it, but there will be errors. Okay, and then if you say okay, and then you will see lots of errors there. Yes, sir.
What about Korea and Japan? What do we do with that?
Korea and Japan. Okay, very good question. And it is said when somebody says very good questions because that person has no idea of the answer, right? So, but that's not the case this time. So-
do we split the thing into two different columns or just remove one of the names?
Well, split into two different columns. I mean, they're not good alternatives here. We could go the easy route and say, well, we pick one, either Korea or Japan.
I figured that would be easier because I was wondering if
That would
you
be
could like
easier.
put it down like
Yes.
one.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I was wondering if you do like put it down one and then have Korea on the top and Japan on the bottom or either or.
right.
With the
So
same year.
if you want to do it the proper way, it's gonna be too complicated. I'll explain you how to do it the proper way, but definitely we don't have time. The proper way will be to create another table with an ID and the host nations. And then here, you'll just have IDs, right? So then you can say, well, you can match and then you can have multiple host countries, right? But right now, this table is not prepared to have multiple host nations, right? But the proper way will be that, to create relationships and allow more than one host country. But anyway, we're gonna pick either Korea or Japan. Which one would you like? How many of you would like to keep Korea? How many of you would like to keep Japan? Man, it's complicated. Huh? Okay, maybe we'll just, do you have a coin? Yeah, we'll do a coin flip. Do we have an online coin flip? Maybe we do. We go, yeah, let's Google it. So online coin flip. There we go, online coin flip. Okay. Heads, what does that mean? Japan or Korea? Okay, let's flip again. So heads will be Japan, okay? Heads will be Japan. Let's flip again. That's it. We keep Japan then. All right. Japan, the land of the rising sun. All right. So we are gonna remove values. So Korea slash, we're gonna replace it with nothing. And that's it. Now we have Japan, right, as the host country. Okay. All right, so we gotta look at it. It appears that everything looks good. Winner, second, blah, blah, blah. All right. And then after everything looks good, we're gonna click on close and apply. Close and apply. And now we wait. And Power BI is working on this. And then cha-cha. But we don't see anything. Well, we don't. But if we click on the table here, we are going to see the data, right? Now, step number one, some people may not agree with me and then they regret it, is to save immediately. So you go to File, Save As, and do you save it in downloads? No. Do you save it in the desktop? No. Where do you save it? On the document. That's why it's called documents, right? So documents, and we're gonna call it FIFA-World Cup. Okay. FIFA-World Cup. And then click on save. All right. So my philosophy in life is always save often, right? And the people who don't agree, when there's a power outage or when the computer crashes, they regret it. Okay, so notice that everything appears to be fine. So then if we click here on the model, we'll see the table. And here is where we can create a relationship with other tables. In this case, we only have one table, so we are not going to do much. And then we go here to the table. And this one is the data. Now to the right, we can see, if we expand, we can see several things. First of all the fields, right? Remember that the columns are called fields, right? In databases. In Power BI, they call them columns. So several things here. Notice that we see the summation sign in attendance, right? In attendance. And Power BI, as soon as you find something that is numeric, is gonna try to summarize. Now, do you ever add up years? Do you add years? No, you don't do that. So we're gonna click on attendance. And here at the top where it says summarization, we are going to select don't summarize, right? Don't summarize, because we don't want that. Now, in the case of goal scores, are you interested in finding out the summation of all the goals? Maybe, right? You can add up goals. The summation qualified teams, maybe. Or the summation match plays, maybe. The attendance, yes. Why not, right? But the year, you never add up years, right? But the goal scores, qualified teams, match play, yes. So you are gonna leave that there. Then we click on host country and notice that the format tells us text, right? And we think, well, that's fine, right? That's fine. However, as Dr. Nigar told us here, it is possible to create a map. And in order for Power BI to recognize that this is a country, we need to give it a category. So data category, we are going to select country. So then Power BI will automatically recognize this as a country. So we're going to select country, and we're going to do the exact same thing with winner, second, third, and fourth. Let's see if Power BI can recognize this as a country. Make sure you do not select county. Okay? That's very different. So country, you're going to select Gwinnett County. Right? So country. Country. And then country. Now, there are some countries that no longer exist, like Yugoslavia, right? Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore. Okay, and then everything else appears to be good. So we are ready to get started with our visualization. But before we do that, Control S to save it, right? Control S, save it. And now we will click on the visualize and the report, right? And we are ready to create our visuals, right? So what do we want to find out? Well, what we need to know is the most important number of all, which country has won the most World Cups, right? And many of you will probably know that answer, but if you don't, Power BI will answer that for us. So the beauty of Power BI is that we can very, very easily switch from one visual to another. So we're going to start with a table. So we'll click on this matrix, right? The matrix. We click and it appears here to the right, to the left. Then notice that we have rows and columns. So we are here under fields. We are going to click on this right arrow, right, to expand. And now what we want to do is to click on winner, right? So we can check winner. We can do that. And notice that right away, Power BI displays this table with all the winners. Now, this appears very, very small. So how do we enlarge it? Well, to enlarge it, notice that we have this, the brush. We can click here on Format Your Visual. And then we can click on Values. And we're going to change the font. Instead of 10, you give it any font, any size you want. And notice that it's not enlarging. So let's see. It's not doing it. So let's see. There was something else. Let's go to the grid. Sometimes you got to fight with this and find where is it. So let's try with column headers first. And that will probably do it. So we can see winner, but we cannot see the values. Let's see. Columns, subtotal, rows, subtotals. Grid, no, style presets. General. Okay, let me see if we go back to data. Okay, the thing is that those are the rows. Yeah, so once we add the values, we may be able to do it. So we added the winner and the rows, and we're going to add winner also in the values, okay? Values. Okay, notice that by default, yes, and in large, notice that here it says first winner, it appears larger. So then values, we can increase the size, and it's increasing there, but we need to find the rows. Let's see if we can find that. Column headers, row headers here, row headers. And then let's enlarge it to 14, for example. And now it appears much bigger. All right. So So now hopefully you can see it. Let me make it even bigger. There we go. Okay, so notice that right now we have rows and then we have values. Now for the values, we added a column that is actually a country, right? So what operations can Power BI perform with a country? It cannot perform a summation with country, it cannot perform an average, right? So Power BI will try to determine which operation to perform. So in this case, it's selected first, but that's not what we want. What we want is to perform a count, right? And notice that here, if we click on this down arrow, we're going to be able to select count. We don't want count distinct. We are going to click on count. And notice that right away, it gives us the number of times that each country was the winner, right? So, and let me make this, let me make it even bigger so that we can see values. Okay, so much bigger. And same thing with row headers. So there you go. So now you say, well, this is cool, but it's hard to tell which country won the most World Cups. So we can sort it. How do we sort it? Well, here, when we see more options, notice that, so this 3 periods right here, okay, we can select sort by, and then select count a winner, right? Count a winner. And there you go. We can see that Brazil has won 5 FIFA World Cups, right? Germany 4, Italy 4, Argentina 2, and everybody else, right? How many has the US have won? Okay. In women, lots of World Cups. Women, yeah. Yes. Yes. You got mobbed. What? What seems to be the problem? Okay. You're gonna click on the down arrow and select how. And if you don't mind, move it over here. And then scroll down all the way down. And then, yep. And here you go. Make this raw headers. All headers. Make it bigger. There you go. Good job. Now we lost it. Maybe. Yes. And I would, and I need to expand. You click this down arrow. So here and there. The only problem is this arrow is
It's better than the VX. This data as well.
yeah, sure.
I might take a second to pull it up. It was, we worked up. Last time, curious, like it's.
Should be able to. Depending on how the data is ordered.
That's why I didn't actually, and there's a lot of data, I'm gonna just be honest. Oh.
Oh, there you go. We're doing okay now? All right. Okay, all right. So now we want to look a little bit more professional, right? And if we show a client, right, it shows this count a winner, doesn't look very good. So what we can do is we come here once again to add data to the visual, and notice that here it says values count a winner. So we can click this, we can actually right click and then go to rename for this visual, right? And we can rename it to whatever we want. So we can do the hashtag space trophies, right? Trophies. And that will give us number of trophies. We can also make the column header larger. So we can click on format your visual and then column headers, text, and let's see, column headers, yeah. We can make it bigger, right? I'm gonna make it 22. There you go. Okay, so, and I don't know if I can, this is just way too big. 150. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to mess with this. Let's just leave it there. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to show you the beauty of this. So right now we have this table, and we would like to create a map, right? A map that can show us which country has won the most World Cups and all that. And we could just click on the map and drag and start adding and change it to count, all those things. But instead of doing that, what we can do is once we have this table selected, we can do Control-C to copy. Then we click on an empty area of the canvas, Control-V to paste it. Now we can drag this second table to the right. And then we can click on the map and it will automatically update the map with all the number of trophies, just like we had before. So very, very cool feature. Notice that we can see the circles, the countries with the largest circles are the one with the most World Cups, right? And we can see here, Brazil, the largest, right? And then we can see two large circles in Europe, right? Those are for Italy and Germany, respectively. And then we can see France, Spain, Argentina, Uruguay. Uruguay surprisingly has 2 World Cups, right? Tiny country. And then no World Cups in North America or in Asia, right? Notice that no World Cups in North America and Asia. Very, very cool feature, okay? Now, we can move this map a little bit lower, right? Suppose that we place it right here. Let's place it right here. Okay. And then once again, we can click on this on the table. And now we can make a copy, right? Control-C. And then I click on the bottom on an empty area of the canvas and then Control-V as in victory to paste it. And now what we are gonna do is this table, let me move it a little bit lower. We're gonna go back to visualizations and we are going to convert it into a tree map. So let's click on tree map here in the toolbar so it's the third row to the right, tree map. And notice that now we see this beautiful tree map and we can place it at the bottom, right? Okay, pretty cool. So we can see, now it's hard to tell. You say, well, but Brazil appears very, so the values are very small. Can we make it larger? Okay, absolutely. So once again, we click on format your visual, and now notice that we see several things. So first of all, we see the legend is off. So let's turn it on. Well, let's actually turn it off. We don't really need it, but let's see if we can make it larger. So data labels, we're going to turn it on. Clearly, we need to do that. And then let's see if we can make it bigger. So data labels, let's make it bigger. Okay. And then also, let's see if we can make category labels. We're going to make it bigger, right? So now much better. Okay. And also the category labels, I'm going to make it even bigger. So, okay, there we go. And then the category, yeah, the data labels was the one that I wanted to make bigger. Okay, there we go. Okay, now this is looking pretty good. There are a few problems. Okay. And how are you doing so far? Are you able to follow me? Yes. Okay. Yes. All right. So you lost track.
But it seems to be I assume it still has.
Okay. Good.
Even though.
All right. So we see two small problems here. The first one is minor, but it is important. You see a problem with friends? Okay. So friends, the background color looks like yellow, right? And then we can see that the font color is white. Do they offer a good contrast? No, right? No. And that will, because Power BI assigns random colors, sometimes that will happen. You have a very light background and a very light font. So then you don't have enough contrast. So how can we fix that? Let's go to general. Actually, let's go to colors. And then under colors in visual, notice that we can see friends that has this yellowish color, and we can pick any other color we want. So suppose that we replace for this darker, and now it looks a lot better, right? Now it's much easier to read. Then another thing, notice that it's also showing us the number of World Cups, right? 5, 4, 4, which is fine, but we already have that information in the table. So we really don't need to have that information in two places. It'll be much better to have the percentage of the total number of World Cups. That'll be much better. How can we do that? So we go back to add data to visual, and then we scroll down to values. Values, make sure that you have the tree map selected. And then where it says count a winner, we're going to click this down arrow and select show value as. And I don't know why it's not, well, because this, okay. It's not showing me, there you go, percent of grain total, right? So you click on the down arrow for the value, then you go to show value as, and then select percent of grain total, all right? Percent of grain total. And now it gives us a percentage, much more useful information, 25%. So Brazil has won from 4 World Cups, Brazil has won one, right? One every 4 World Cups, 25%, Germany 20%, Italy 20%. Notice that if you combine Brazil, Germany, and Italy, you have 65% of the World Cups. Very useful information, right? Before we couldn't tell that. Now, if you combine Germany and Italy, okay, then you have 40%, right? Very useful information. Now, suppose that you say, well, this is wonderful, but I want to know. Let's see. We don't. Yes, the content. Yeah, we don't have it here. We don't have that. But anyway, that's fine. So then we want to, for example, we want to change the style, right? we can do that. We learned how to do it before. So we can click in here, format your visual, and then we go to general and we see title. So title %GT, we can do, we can say World Cups by country, for example, World Cups by country. Okay, and there we go, World Cups by country. So I have until 12, right? Okay. Okay.
How would you change the percent precision to decimal? So it's not having to be.
You don't want it to decimal? Why not? Okay, so let me see. Most likely the answer is okay, you can, but it's not easy. All right. So let me see if it is possible in the easy way, but most likely not. Okay, so let me see here, and then I can this one. Show values percent of grain total. Yeah, and you can't do anything else. All right, so let me answer your question. So this way you cannot. It gives you just 2 decimals. You like it or not? Now, if you say, well, no, my boss demands me to only display, to not display decimals, right? I have to do it, or I want to display with 4 decimals. Well, you need to create a measure to do that. And what is a measure? It is beyond the scope of this class. Maybe we create a very, very easy measure, but in this way, no. This is the way it gives us to. Right? Yeah. Oh, maybe that way. I mean, we can try, but let's see. Format your visual in the values. That's it. Does it allow you? Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. Yes. Okay. So forget what I told you. Forget what I told you. Data values. That's it. 0 decimal. Yeah. But sometimes if you want to perform more complicated operations, you have no choice but to create a measure, right? So there you go. But suppose I want to format it as a currency. Let's see. Yeah, it allows me. Yeah, thousands, millions, billions. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So let's add, let's see. Now let's double click here on page 1. And let's do this one, winners, okay? Winners. So now we have this visualization. We call it winners, all right? And now we do Control S to save it. And this one looks good for the most part, yeah. So, yeah. So now let's click on a new page. Okay, I hope that all of you were able to get this one. Now when I click on new page, and then we are gonna call this one host. Okay, host. So we're gonna create a visualization to find out which countries have hosted the most World Cups. How can I do that? Well, we can start with the table, the matrix, and then we can click on host country for rows. And then once again, we're going to drag host country into values. And then we're going to select count. Then we can sort by and select count of host country. Okay. And we can enlarge this just like we did before. And then we go to values and we enlarge. All right. Okay, and then the row headers. Column header, row headers. Okay. Now this is cool. But what if I want to display it as a chart, right? Can I do that? Well, very easy. You just click on chart, cluster bar chart, and there you go. We can see it. Cluster bar chart. And then we can click on row headers. And let's see if it allows me. Yeah, that will be y-axis. And then we can also change the title. And we can call it post. Okay, there you go. And also we need to the x-axis. Let's see. No, it'll be, yeah, the x-axis range. Okay, there you go. So now we can find out those countries. Okay, and then we can add any other visualization we want. So I want to, yeah, this fine, and we can add a map if we want, same thing. So we can take this this chart, Control C, and then Control V, and drag it to the right. And then we can create a map. So let's click on the map, and there you go. We get the map, right? Pretty cool. So we can do Control S. And notice that clearly Europe has hosted the most World Cups. Okay. All right. So with that, I think we could continue doing lots of things with this one, but we need to move on to the second project because we have about 30 more minutes to go. So now let's save this one, Control S. And then we will go to D2L, and now notice that there is a link here that it says World GDP Wikipedia. So let's click, and we're going to copy this link, right? This hyperlink, we're going to copy. So, and I don't know if I can just, let's see. Well, let me try. I'm going to copy, Control C. And now we go back to Power BI, and we're going to go to File and select New. Okay, File, New. And once again, it opens a clean Power BI visualization, and then it asks us, how do you want to get the data, right? Before we used a CSV file, which was very easy, right, in a way. But now we're going to scrape data online, right? So we're going to click on Get Data. And we wait until this window appears. And we are going to go to Other, and then select Web, right? Web. Other, Web. You can also type here Web. We click, and now we click Connect. Then we're going to paste the URL with Control V as in victory, paste the URL, and then click OK. And now we wait. All right, it's telling us, okay, how do you want to access this web content? Well, we want to access anonymous, right? So we click Connect, and now it's going to take a while because Power BI is analyzing the website, and it will, right, it's connecting, and it's going to give us a preview. This is actually something very, very difficult to do, but Power BI does an incredible job on doing this. and then it finds several tables, lots of things. We're gonna check this one, GDP in millions by country. Notice that that is coming exactly from this table. So Power BI is able to scrape this entire table so that we can manipulate it. So we check this one, and then we click on transform data, transform. Now, this data is not going to be as clean as the World Cup, so we will have to do some work. Number one, what do you notice with the headers here? Was Power BI able to get the headers? Yes.
I think, I tried it,
Exactly. So the answer, yeah, so the answer will be no. Power BI was unable to determine what the headers were. So we need to help Power BI. So we can, there is an option here that it says used first row as headers, okay? But we gotta be careful with this. Yeah, that's fine. Let's just click on use first row as headers, okay? And now notice that we are fine. So in a way, country, territory. So now instead of country, territory, we're gonna just rename it to country, right? So we're gonna right click and then select rename and just delete territory, right? And slash territory, we delete it. Okay, then some things that we don't want. So for example, notice that the first two rows, the first one has a lot of nulls and then it says estimate year. We don't want that. And also the second row, it says world. We don't really care about the world GDP. So we want to remove the top two rows. How do we do that? Well, we can click on this down arrow for country, and we are going to deselect the select all. And well, actually, let's click on select all, but then deselect null, all right? Deselect null, and then we click OK. And then we also, so it deselected the null, but we also have to delete the world. So let's click again, and then let's go all the way down to world, and then uncheck. If it is hard to find, you can always type it here on the search. And then we click OK. And now world has disappeared. It's disappeared. So we have United States, China, and all that. Okay. And now this one, UN region, we're going to leave it the way it is. Let's see. Yes, that's fine. But notice we have some problems here. This one, it says we have several estimates. We have the IMF estimate. We have the World Bank. Which one do we want, right? So we're going to leave this one just the IMF. And we could remove the other columns. But instead of removing columns, it's better to just tell Power BI which ones we want to keep. So we're going to click on choose columns. And now we are going to remove all the columns that we no longer want. So I'm going to uncheck and then go to country, UN region, and we're going to leave this IMF one. That's the only one that we're going to leave. All the other ones, we don't want them. So we click OK. And now this table has been reduced to only 3 columns. Okay. All right. Then next step, we are going to rename the third column to estimate, right? Or GDP. We can rename it to GDP. So let's right click and then rename. And we're going to rename it to GDP. Okay. Press enter. All right. Now, notice once again that Power BI does not recognize this as text or was unable. We see this ABC. That's a problem. So even if we, and maybe that you may say, well, how are the commas? Is that causing the problem? Well, it could be, but notice that we have other problems. For example, with this, we see this N4, right? In square bracing. Okay, so we need to get rid of that. So let's right click and then replace values. And we will look for that open square brace and space 4, and then closing square brace, and then replace with nothing. So we click OK, and now it's gone. We scroll down to see if we find any other problems. And then we see Cuba. We have a problem with Cuba. Cuba did not report their GDP, right? our friends of the Cuban government do not want to disclose any information. So that's gonna cause problems. Now, the problem is that we don't know what character is this, right? And we can't just drag it from here. Maybe we can copy, yeah, from the here. So now we can just copy this character. So Control C, and now we're gonna right click on GDP and then replace values. We find this value and replace it with, we can replace it with 0, but it's not true that the Cuba GDP is 0. So we don't know. We're gonna leave it as blank and then click OK. And now we scroll down, we'll see that Cuba is blank, right? Fine. And then we keep scrolling down to see if there are any other problems. We see North Korea is blank. I wonder why, right? And then Syria is blank. Well, I wonder why. And then New Caledonia in Oceania, right? And we have Bermuda, Liechtenstein, Monaco, Cayman Islands, Guam. You know, Guam is U.S. territory, right?
Yeah.
French Polynesia, yeah. Well, they have military bases there. Yeah, very expensive to fly there. Saint Lucia, right? But from what we see blanks, but we don't see any other problems, okay? So it took us a little while, but we were able to clean it from what we can see. And okay, so now let's go ahead and save this with, we click on close and apply. Close and apply. Oh, I forgot. Oh. Okay, so what happened? I clicked close and apply, but I forgot to make one little change. Is it the end of the world, right? No, we can go back and make that change, okay? So Power BI forgives us. And now we can click on transform data, and then we are back into the Power Query, so we're fine. Now this GDP, notice that it says ABC. We want to transform this into a number. So let's see if we can do it, or actually Power BI can do it. So we're gonna click on ABC, and we're gonna select whole number. And we cross our fingers, and that's it. Power BI was able to do it, right? So now we can click close and apply. Yes. Is fine. If it is blank, if it has blank, that's fine.
I got an error.
You got an arrow, okay. Let's yes. Yeah. All right. So now, what is the next step? Is to save, right? So we're gonna click on the floppy drive, and we're gonna call this one World GDP, right? World-GDP and save. Okay. And then we click on our data to make sure that it imported correctly. There we go. Okay, now notice that the GDP is summarized, and that is fine because sometimes we may want to add up GDPs. So then we click on country, and what do we need to do? Let's see if you remember. Yes, the category, correct. Category, we change it to country, correct, country.
And I didn't see that before.
And then UN region, continent, correct. So we're gonna change it to continent. There we go. And then the GDP appears to be fine. It's a whole number, but if we want, which is a good idea, we can click on the comma. So it shows us the comma separator. Still a number, but the format, it will be in comma, separated in thousands. All right, so looking pretty good. Now we click on report. And now we can start playing with this. So we want to display the GDP by country, right? So we can always start with a matrix. I like to start with a matrix. You can start with whatever you want, but I like to have the matrix, and then we can convert it into whatever chart we want. So we click on the matrix, okay? And I don't know if Keanu Reeves is going to show up when we click on the matrix, right? The last matrix was not that great. Did you like it? Yeah, you watched.
I watched the first one.
You didn't watch the first. Oh man.
No, that's the only.
Oh, and that's, yeah, good. Stay with that one then. Okay, so we click on the matrix and then we can expand here and we can check country and it's going to be added as a row. And then we can also check GDP and that's going to be the values, right? So then we can enlarge. So let me go to format your visual. And now values, let's make them bigger. And also the column headers. So row headers. Okay, and also the column headers. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to show you something pretty cool with the matrix that you cannot do with a regular table. Notice that to the left of matrix, we have table. The matrix is more powerful than, or more flexible than the table. If we add another row here, we can add UN region as a row. So I can just drag it and drop it right above country. Actually, right below country. Let's see. There you go. If we drag it right below, notice that now it organizes the matrix by region. So we can see the total GDP by region. And if I want, suppose I want to expand Africa, we get to see all the countries in Africa, right? Pretty cool. And you can have multiple levels there in the matrix, right? So if we don't have that information, but suppose that we had information for each state or province, right? Then for each country, we will be able to click and then expand for each state or province, right? That'll be pretty cool. All right. And then we can do the same thing with the other ones. Pretty cool. Okay. And then let's add one. Let's just click on an empty area. And then we can click on, and I'm gonna take this table. Let's see. Do you want it organized by region like this, or you want it with no? Yes. Okay, good. So I'm gonna leave it like that. And we can place it right there. Yes. And now we can add a map, right? So let me just grab a map. And then we can check on country, right? And also GDP are gonna be the values, right? The bubble size is gonna be given by the GDP, all right? And I'm gonna place it probably here at the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to also add a tree map here. So let me see a tree map. I'm gonna add it. Maybe I'm adding too many things. A tree map, and we're gonna have a country, and then the GDP. Right there you go. Now notice one thing. And let me do this. I'm gonna drag this a little bit lower. Yeah. And now notice the problem with this tree map. Do you see the problem? It's too much. That's right. It's actually too many countries, which is really difficult to see. So you may want to limit this to only 10 countries, the top 10. How do you do that? How do you limit to top 10? Well, we are going to need a filter. So we're gonna click here on the tree map, and then we expand filters. And notice that here it says country all, right? So we can click, and now notice that it says basic filtering. We're gonna click this down arrow and select top N, right? Top N. And nowadays it asks us, okay, you want top N based on what value? So we are gonna take GDP, we're gonna drag and drop it onto by value, okay? And then we need to specify how many items we want. So we just say we want only 10. We press tab and then click on apply filter. And now it only shows the top 10. Pretty cool. Now, do you see a problem with the United States? Is it easy to read? No, because there is very low contrast. We see that the color that is picked is cyan, right? And then the font color is white. So let's go to visualizations. And now let's click on format your visual and then colors. We will change the color for the United States. And we are gonna pick, for example, red. Much easier to read, much better. And same thing, we see Japan or United Kingdom, maybe we can change that, right? So Japan, let's see, here we go. We can select another color for Japan. So suppose that I select this one, a little bit better. That's it, okay? Okay, so now I'm gonna shrink this table a little bit. Oh, this is fine. But we are going to specify here at the top left a filter. So I'm going to save it with Control S. And if you remember, Dr. Negar told us about filters, and we use one filter, but when I use others. So we're going to click on slicer. And notice that it places the slicer at the top left. So we will click on UN region. Okay, and now it will allow us to select which region we want. So let me go to format your visual and also general values. Let me make them bigger. Okay, there we go. And this table smaller. So now we will be able to select a particular region. So we check in Africa, for example, and notice that it only shows us data for Africa, right? If we click on Asia, it only shows us data for Asia. Pretty cool. So now with this, I can start asking questions to my data. So which country has the largest GDP in Asia? China, right? And what percentage is it? It doesn't tell us, right? But we can tell that it's about more than 50%. But let's go ahead and add it. So we're going to click on the tree map. And then we go to data labels on. And if you remember, we can, let me increase the size. We can show this as percentage. So we go back and now values GDP, and let's see, GDP, and then show value as percent of grand total. And there it goes. It gives us a percentage, right? So we can see that the China GDP is 53.39% of the Asia GDP, right? Notice that Indonesia is hard to do, but it's hard to start changing all the colors all the time. But we could change Indonesia colors, Indonesia, make it. There we go. And Saudi Arabia. Okay. Saudi Arabia. There we go. Okay, pretty cool. And now we can click on Europe. And now we can see Germany, United Kingdom, Russia, France, right? And we can click on Americas, and it is not hard to tell which country has the largest GDP in the Americas, right? By far, the United States with almost 77.5% of the Americas GDP. Okay. Now, you say, well, this is pretty cool, but now I want to compare the Americas with Europe. Can I compare the GDPs of Americas and Europe? How can I do that? Well, the trick is to use the control key. So we're going to hold the control key, and now I click on Europe, and now it selects both. It selects the Americas and Europe. And now we can see that if we combine Europe and the Americas, the United States still has more than half of the GDP. So pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. And we can compare the Americas with Asia, for example. So we can uncheck Europe. Now we hold the control key, Americas, and then Asia. There you go. Okay, so how are you guys doing? Were you able to create this beautiful resource? Yes.
But I was able to create the numbers temporary that you, and I still have a whole country, that's all.
Okay.
So I was able to separate into general Asia or anything like that, but I was able to use something.
You're welcome. I hope they learn.
Why?
So when you check, like the Americas and Asia, and it specifies the top one.
Oh, you mean the slice?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's probably.
Click here, area, and then slice.
Yeah, you got the top 10.
Yeah, I know I got top 10, I just didn't have.
Okay, and now you check your region.
Oh, okay.
You want it? You got it.
You sure you went? Yeah. I'm gonna plug in my classroom and check all your. You know, where's.
You got one on the side right here.
And then you want so are you guys ready for another visualization?
There's something that for some reason the map is not displaying the dots, but it's just displaying like one dot or something, and it doesn't seem to where. More. You know, this is something like.
So let's try okay, so for the map, make sure that you have the location set up as country, okay? If you don't have the location set up as country, then Power BI doesn't know, right? And then the bubble size as GDP, right? All right, so let's give a name to this page one. We're gonna call it GDP by country. GDP by country. And let's save it, Control S. Okay, and now we're gonna create another visualization. Now this one, we want to combine countries, not necessarily in the same continent. So let's go ahead and we are gonna create, we can probably do, let's try with the, I like the tree map, but we can do the, okay, let's try with this one, cluster bar chart. or yeah, this one, the cluster column chart. And I'm gonna move it here to the right. Okay, and probably right there will be okay. And we're gonna check country and then GDP. Okay, and there we go. We can see all the countries and their GDP. And it doesn't look, well, it's okay. We just leave it like that. And we can, you know what? I'm gonna change it to, there you go, vertical. Okay. So now it looks much better. And I'm gonna drag it here to the right. And then let's make it bigger. So the values, let's see, and see the data labels. Let's make it on, perfect. And now under general, let's see, under visual, we see the x-axis. Yeah, we do the y-axis and then we're gonna enlarge. There we go. Okay, so now we can see values and then the data labels. Let's make them bigger. Okay, values. Okay, there you go. So notice that we get to see this GDP by country, and we can add once again a tree map. I love tree maps. They look pretty cool. And we can add the same thing. So country and then GDP. There we go. And we can make the top 10 just like we did before. So we're gonna click on the filters, and then we'll do the top N, select top 10 based on the GDP. And there we go. Apply filter. Okay, and let me once again change the United States because it's really hard to see. Colors, United States, we're going to select red. Okay, there we go. Now, what we want to do is to have a slicer at the bottom. So how do we do that? Okay, so yeah, it's fine. So I'm gonna click on visualization, and then I'm gonna add a slicer at the bottom. And we are going to add the GDP. So now notice, I don't know if you can see there, it's a little small, but now we can select a range of the GDP. So we can select what ranges we want. So suppose that we want, well, we want a GDP of at least, this is, I think, let's see, we want 20 billion. So 20, let's see. And these are already millions of dollars. So we'll do. So this one, we have at least 20, or at least a trillion. This one is at least, we can at least to 20 billion. And then we can scroll all the way down and see the other countries, right? But suppose that we say, well, I want at least 1 trillion. So that'll be 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And there you go, at least $1 trillion. Not a trillion, but this is 4 billion or no, 25 trillion. Yeah, this has to be in trillion. Yeah, $4 trillion, at least $1 trillion. So Saudi Arabia makes it to mark Indonesia. Yeah, at least $1 trillion. Brazil, 2 trillion. Mexico. This is probably the nominal GDP, not the real GDP. Okay, so then we can add a map here too, or we can add whatever we want. Let me add something that is very common, and is a card. So I'm gonna add it, or a gauge. We can add a gauge, for example. Let's see, a gauge. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Let me go back to the tree map. And here we can add a gauge. Or let's add just a card, and we can add GDP. So it shows that the total GDP selected, right? We can add it here. This one is card, okay, card. And let's see if we can also add a gauge. Let's see if that's possible. Gauge, add it right here. And this will be GDP. Yeah, there you go. Pretty cool. So we can see the GDP compared to the one selected, right? So now we can come here. And notice how it changes. It's interactive, right? We can select any range we want. And it automatically updates everything, right? Then you can also add pretty colors, you can add titles, you can add whatever you want, right? When you're creating this for customers, or usually what they want is some pretty colors, right? So suppose that you're creating the FIFA World Cup for a soccer team, they may want the colors of the team, right? The jersey, things like that, to make it pretty, all right? And now there are some guidelines. Usually, let's say in a tree map, you don't want more than 10, or in a pie chart, you may not want more than 6 or 7, right? But this is just give you an idea on the basics of Power BI, okay? And something I forgot to tell you, if we go back to this one, GDP by country, we could also select, let's see if we can do it. You can also select directly on the tree map. So you can also hold the control key and select specific countries, right? And we could do this exactly in here too. We can click on Japan, and notice that it shows us the Japan at the top. I can hold the control key and keep clicking on countries and select individual countries, and it updates all the charts, right? Pretty cool, right? So for those of you, I don't know, has anybody ever done programming here? Yes? How long do you think it would have taken you to create all this with Java or with Python, right? Long time, right? Long, with R, right? Long time.
R also counts to R coding. Yeah, no, I worked with R. That's
Yes.
what I used for the crime data.
Right. So with R, it will take you a long time to go in. So very powerful. Okay. All right. Well, I hope you enjoy this session. We have questions? Yes. The card. Okay. So you need to click on this one, the card. And then all you need is the GDP, the field. All right. Okay. Yes. The slicer. Yeah. So you need to click on this one, the slicer. So click on an empty area, click on the slicer, and then you're going to add GDP. And that creates the filter. All right. And needless to say, there are lots and lots of jobs available in data science, and for those who can master Power BI. All right. Well, I hope you enjoy this session.
Well, let's thank our speaker.